Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about, is learning medical coding stressful and how to manage that stress. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue. I'm a medical coder. Okay, guys. So I got a comment from a viewer. I'm going to read the comment and then we're going to get into it. So here we go. All right. So the viewer says, I have 6 years experience in the software development field. Software development is very stressful and there's a lot of pressure. All the time we are expected to complete a task and keep updating our knowledge and learn new language, etc. And there's a lot of things to this field. I am not interested in the software development field anymore, so I decided to change my career. I am now 31 years old. I heard about medical coding. My question is there a lot of work pressure there? We study in 6 months and then we find our work, right? No. So the reason that I say it's not a 6-month deal, because learning medical coding is about learning a brand new language. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. All the way from that medical terminology, the anatomy, the procedures, the diagnosis codes, the pathology. We have to be able to understand it all. So you're still going to be learning. I have been a medical coder for almost 15 years now. I looked almost 15 years and I'm still studying. Why? Because there's so much that you're going to learn about the body. There's new things that come out all the time as far as like different procedures, and procedures get updated. And then of course you have your guidelines that get updated. But to think that this is going to be something that you're going to learn really easily and this is something that's, it's not a lot of pressure and stress, I'm not going to lie to you all. It is a lot of pressure. It is a lot of stress. And there's a lot of people that want something easy. They want an easy career field. It's something that, you're working in an office job and, somebody told you that, the codes are already selected and all you have to do is push them on through. This is not true. Even if the codes are selected and your job is to audit to make sure those are correct, it doesn't necessarily mean, I'm going to be able to push everything through because that's what the doctor wanted. If the documentation does not support the codes that are selected, you have to correct those codes so that it does reflect what is documented. And that's important to know because there's a lot of people that say, well, the doctor wanted that code. Does the documentation support? That's something that you have to know. And to be able to know that, you have to be able to read and comprehend the documentation. And how do you do that? You learn the language. You learn your medical terminology, you learn your anatomy and your pathophysiology. And there's a lot of people that still ask me the question, Blue, do we have to learn anatomy? Is that really important? Yes. How else are you supposed to know what you're reading if you don't understand the language of the documentation? Medical terms are very complex. It is a mix of Latin and Greek words. So again, it's something that it's going to take time to learn. This is something that you build on learning. If you are overwhelmed at the thought of learning anatomy, start with 3 basic things. Just start with 3 things. You learn your bones, you learn the organ systems, and you learn the muscle groups. That's all. You start there. You start with those 3 things, and then you build and you start to get more specific to, the different body systems. But for the most part, start with those 3 things. And at least this way, it'll get you that broad stroke knowledge of everything that's going on. And then again, you can build. And there's lots of ways to build your medical terminology and your anatomy knowledge. You can hang up posters around in your area, wherever you're studying at, so that you can constantly have that stimulus of those anatomy posters. And for medical terminology, I have my Patreon channel. Patreon, if you don't know, is a lot like YouTube, except you pay to support the creator and there's no commercials. On my Patreon channel, I do crossword puzzles. I do word finds for medical terminology. I do all kinds of quizzes and worksheets for coding. Once a month, I host a live study hall on a Saturday where we all get together and we start talking about coding a particular subject, or if you have a question, it's open forum. It's on Zoom. So everybody's there. That's just something that I offer to my Patreon. So if you're interested in that, the link for my Patreon is in the description box below. But it's about taking things one step at a time. This is how you mitigate that stress, guys, because people will get overwhelmed because they sign up for these programs that are, self-paced, and you could do it in your spare time. And then sometimes they don't spend enough time with it. Well, Blue, how much time am I supposed to spend? 20 hours per week, every week. And the way that you do that, and even if you have a full-time 40-hour-a-week job, even if you have a family and there's so much responsibility, you can fit 20 hours in if it is that important to you. Because people that are only able to spend 5 or 7 hours, that's not enough time. That's not enough dedication to try to learn something that you want to get into. And no, I will never, ever, ever recommend that you ever pick a program that's 6 months long or 4 months long, heaven forbid, that you pick a program like that, because that's too fast to learn all that we need to know as medical coders. The reasonable amount of time is 9 months, 12 months, or 18 months. And if the program that you're in now is a 4-month program or a 6-month program, and you say, oh my gosh, Blue, what do I do? You complete that program, you get what you can get out of it, and you continue to study on your own before attempting to take that test. So that way you can make sure that you're fully prepared when you're out there and you're trying to get your first job, all right? But the thing about it is you have to make it a discipline to get that time in to study. Make that 20 hours. Start with a whole list of all the subjects that you need to learn, all the classes that you have, right? The subjects that you're going to learn. And then you work one subject at a time. And then once you get through it, and then you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one, you move on to the next one. Because if you're trying to learn medical terminology, and then you're trying to learn medical coding, and then you want to look ahead at the guidelines, and you want to go ahead and start reading them, that's when it starts to be too much. Even for me, just talking about it, it sounds like it's too much. I would run from it, right? But this is how you manage that. You start with the one subject that you have. If you are in medical terminology, that's where you go. Now, medical terminology, again, is very easy. All you have to do is learn your prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words. There's a lot of people that tell me, well, do I have to memorize everything about medical terminology? No. If you learn your prefixes, your suffixes, and your root words, you'll be able to piece words together, and it will expand your vocabulary tenfold very quickly. So that's, again, why I'm telling you guys, take the time to work it that way. Use the resources that are out there. There's a ton of channels on YouTube that are dedicated to learning medical terminology. You can listen to this while you're working, while you're cooking, while you're washing dishes, whatever. You can take that time to be listening, and you can take the time to work through flashcards in those moments of downtime, so that way you can fit in all that extra time. And that's the only way you're going to be able to build on your knowledge, so that way you can advance on. And then when you get to the coding part, it's not going to be so difficult for you because you're going to understand the language. There's a lot of people that want to just jump into just learning the coding part and, oh, I'll figure out the medical terminology part later on. Well, when you're in the real world and you're getting audited by your auditor, by your lead coder, or by an insurance company, they're going to be looking at all the things that you're selecting. And it's very easy to get the wrong codes if you don't understand the language. If you don't understand what you're looking at and you're just sort of picking codes and going through and just doing whatever, it's a bad thing, guys. And what we do affects so many people. It affects the patients most of all. It affects the providers, then it affects the facility. The facility who has a lot of people that they have to pay. And who do you think is responsible for bringing in that correct amount of money? The coders. The coders have to be able to look at the documentation that the providers do. So the providers are the ones that are responsible for making sure the documentation is great. And all the stuff that they've done is in that documentation, so that the coders can get the correct codes, so that the facility can get paid or the doctor can get paid and everybody's happy. But if the incorrect codes are being selected, guess what? That money is going to be, oh, okay, well, now you got to pay a fine because you had the incorrect code. This is incorrect. Oh, well, the insurance is always paying it, so we'll go ahead and send it on through. Are you making sure that it's okay? Because the insurance company can go later on and say, oh, you know what, we did an audit, and you know what, we overpaid you. So now you got to pay us back, and there's a fine, and we want our interest too. So that's why I say you all have to make sure that you pay attention to what you're doing. But again, it starts when you're studying. And if that's too much for you guys, that's the thing that you got to really consider before you start investing into this career field. Don't just look into getting into medical coding because you want to make a lot of money. There's a lot of people that are like that, and it really upsets me because I think of all the people that it impacts. Because I see people that are in the industry now who have no business being in the industry because of the way that they are with just their attitude of, oh, I'm just doing this to collect a check and go home. And they don't really care to look at all the detail and things like that. They're just doing whatever to get in and get out. There's people that are like that, and I don't like that. And there's too many. If there's one, there's two. That's too many. But when you're looking at getting into a field, these recruiters are going to tell you whatever they need to tell you. So that's what draws in a lot of the wrong people into the field, where they just think, oh, well, whatever, it's just a job, rather than actually getting into it and enjoying what they do. Because guys, we only get one life. That's it. This is not a dress rehearsal. This is the actual show. And so if you're going to be like this viewer who's considering, oh, I've had 6 years in and it's just too much because I have to study again, you're going to have to do the same thing when you get into medical coding. So for me personally, I would tell this person, I don't think this field is for you. I didn't respond to this comment because literally the video that they were asking the question on was literally addressing, is medical coding stressful? So, I mean, and they're asking me, is medical coding stressful? It can be, but if you don't know how to manage your stress, it's going to be too much for you, So again, every field is going to have its ups and its downs, and it's going to have its, I don't like doing that part, but, you have to learn to work with it, enjoy it, or pick something else. But to pick this field, you're picking a field that's very intellectual, that is going to require you to constantly study from the time you get your certification till the time that you retire. It's going to require you to study that whole time. Like I said, I'm nearly a 15-year veteran now, and I still continue to study. I still continue to make that 20 hours per week. Yeah. Considering my schedule, which is I work full time. And I do YouTube, and I do Patreon, and I do resume rewrites, I do professional coaching, I do tutoring. So there's a lot of things that I do, and there's even more stuff that I do that I don't tell y'all about. So that's the thing, guys. You have to be able to pick whatever it is that you want to do for your career and stick with it through the good and the bad. Because there's going to be times when you're going to wonder, did I pick the right thing? Did I do the right thing? But if you're learning to take one subject at a time, it's going to be a lot easier to manage and handle. It's not going to be where it's just like, oh my God, it's so much. There's a lot of people that are like that, and then they end up losing all that money because they don't know how to manage their stress. And they just completely give it up because they're like, well, this isn't for me because it's just too much and I can't learn on my own. Well, are you trying to find a mentor? Because you can go on LinkedIn and you can ask, hey, I'm a brand new medical coding student. I'm looking for a mentor. Does anybody want to mentor me? And you'll see that there's people that are usually really quick about wanting to mentor people. You can also hire a tutor if you need it. A tutor can help you if you're having a particular problem, and maybe you have a teacher who's not really teaching you very well, or they're just impatient with you or whatever, and you just need somebody else who can speak to you in a way that would help you to learn. That's something that's also available, but it takes some research to find somebody good. You can look on LinkedIn, you can ask for reference, or not references, but resources or references on who would be a good tutor. And again, if you're interested, I have a tutoring rate. My rate is in the description box below. But guys, don't keep running from a career that you're studying. Or if you want to get into this thinking that, oh, this is going to be something that's easy, because it's not. And if you're always going to run from one career to another career to another career, you're never going to be happy, right? Because it sounds like this person wants to run from this career in software coding to escape having to always study all the time. Well, what do you think medical coders have to do? We have to maintain our continuing education units. Everybody does. Everybody does. If you have your credential, you have to maintain your continuing education units. And it's a different amount for the associations, and depending on which credential you have. Okay. Again, I have a lot of videos about those things too. So take the time to check those out. Take one subject at a time. Commit yourself to studying for 20 hours per week. Then all that time that you're building your language, you're building your knowledge, it's going to make learning the process a lot easier, and then it's going to be more enjoyable because you're spending time with it. People who spend 5 or 7 hours a week, just here and there, they're still going to be confused, and they're going to be confused for a long time, rather than the person who is spending that 20 hours per week, and then I've studied that, I've studied that, I've studied that. If you're truly stuck on something, because some people get hung up on a particular subject, it's okay to stick a pin in it and just come back to it at a later date, because with fresh eyes, you'll be able to make some kind of headway with it. And again, if you're truly stuck, then get yourself a tutor so that way they can help you get through that hard part, because that's the only thing that is available. But yes, do that. Make it easy for yourself. Spend time doing not just the book, but watching videos. You can watch videos on surgeries. You can watch videos about medical terminology and anatomy and things like that. Again, it's very helpful. There's a lot of resources out there, guys. I mean, I can't say it enough other than to just look on YouTube. YouTube is a great resource, all right? And then let your fingers do the walking. You can always look up things on the internet as well. So, that's just something that I would say. But if you're trying to get into this field because you think it's going to be an easy cakewalk, you're in for a very rude awakening. Okay, that's all I got for that one. Medical coding is not easy. It is a difficult field, and it is there for those who want to rise to the challenge. If you can't stomach the fight of it, it's probably not going to be for you. All right. And consider all the investment of time and money, because guys, time and money is very precious, and people treat it like it's nothing all the time. But again, life goes by just like that. And if you're going to spend your whole time in, I'm just going to work and then I'll be happy when I retire. If you're going to spend your life like that, that's sad, because then you never enjoyed your work. It never fulfilled you. I'm fortunate that from 2014, when I had my aha moment, when it clicked, when it finally clicked, when I got it, when I understood that it's more than just coding from a book, it's actually learning and knowing things deeper on a deeper level. When I got that, it completely changed my outlook on how I work and the things that I am able to do. And it's built my knowledge. And with that knowledge building, it came all kinds of rewards. It came with a higher pay level. It came with more confidence to be able to talk to the doctors and better relationships with them. That all was because of my commitment to studying, commitment to learning, commitment to becoming better and better. I still have a lot of things to learn. I will always say that. I will always be learning. I'm never going to get to a point where I say, well, I know everything, because I don't. And if people tell you, I know everything, they're lying, because no, they don't. Or they're foolish enough to believe that they do know everything. And so that's the thing, guys. You're always going to be learning in this field. And to me, that drives me. And I'm happy with that. I am so thankful for my career. I would have never gotten into this had I not gotten into the WIOA program. Had I never had my case manager who told me about it, because I was going to get into accounting because I like numbers. I'm a numbers person, and he was like, well, what about medical coding? I was like, oh no, I don't do nothing with needles, because I knew everything, right? And then that day taught me right then and there, I don't know everything, So, that's the thing. I have this wonderful career. I don't feel like I'm working, and that's the best thing. If you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. I never understood that until 2014, when I was like, I had that aha moment. I was like, now I get it. But again, guys, it was me learning to take one subject at a time. And there's so many things that I want to learn. There's so many things that I still want to do. And I still make my vision boards. I still make my lists, my goals and everything. And I check them off as I meet those goals. And that's exactly what you have to do, because that's going to, again, manage that stress. It's going to give you that motivation to keep going, especially when you start seeing those little check marks of all the things that you've been learning and all the things that you know now versus, maybe a month ago when you were not studying for 20 hours a week. Somebody who's studying 20 hours a week, guys, think about that. And even with a full-time job, you can do it. Yes, you can. I don't want to hear, oh no, I can't, because yeah, you can. If I can do it, and again, y'all don't know everything that I do. If I can do it, you certainly can do it. And that's the thing I'm going to leave you guys with today, because again, the person who is only studying for 5 hours a week is only studying for 20 hours in a month. The person who's studying for 20 hours a week is getting in that 80 hours. 20 versus 80. That's a big difference. And that person with that 80 is going to know a heck of a lot more than that person with the 20 who's not as committed. Which one do you want to be? Do you want to be the 20 or do you want to be the 80? Which one do you want to be? And if you can't make 20 hours in a week because something happened, you had an emergency or your car or whatever, it's fine. Pick it up and continue on the next week. Because again, that's what it's going to take. That commitment, that devotion to excellence. How do you think these athletes get to be as good as they are? Because they take the time. It's the same thing with us as medical coders. You have to take the time to learn. If you don't take that extra time to learn, if you don't take the time to make those lists, to make that schedule, to stick with it, are you ever going to get really good? I'm just saying. So I'm going to wrap this one up. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Have a great weekend. If this video helped you, I hope you like, subscribe, and share. And I will see y'all next time. Bye.